And welcome back, everybody, to Who Would Win. This one comes to us, I believe, from Light 010, 010, 01, no, 10. Wow. Light 1091. I might be butchering the name slightly, but Light 1091, who asked the question, who would win in a fight, John Wick or Robert Maccall, Denzel Washington's Equalizer? Two characters that are very similar function, but very different in concept. The thing is, they're both characters out for vengeance, but for different reasons. John Wick is a master assassin, the Baba Yaga, who got out, who was one of the few who actually got out of the game, and then was brought back in, and he just goes on this killing spree to get revenge, to get out, and to stay alive. Robert Maccall, on the other hand, they never actually say exactly what he was, but he was clearly a Black Ops kind of assassin, almost like a Jason Bourne type, who also got out, but he faked his death, and is ultimately brought back into the fray when innocent people are threatened. And he only seems to do this to, as the title of the series kind of goes, equalize the situation, to help other people. But that still begs the question, who wins in a fight between these two? Looking at these characters, John Wick is clearly in real life, Keanu Reeves is the younger of the two to begin with. John Wick's the younger of the two, so he's clearly more physically fit than John is. Robert Maccall. I don't know why I said John, but Robert Maccall is. He's also probably just the better weapon user, too. Not to say that Denzel's character Robert Maccall is unproficient with weapons, far from it. John just seems to be a walking, even when he just has one pistol in his hand, he is a wrecking shop. And then if you go in like the second one, where he's literally just becomes a one-man army. John Wick is literally capable of taking down hundreds of people within the span of a week. Now, that's not to say Robert isn't capable of this as well, but we've never seen Robert do something like this. John Wick is the far more physical of the two of them. He's not just attacking with weapons, he's attacking with his fists, he's running, he's jumping. He's also taking a huge amount of damage. Huge amount of damage and shots when he's fighting. John also is constantly wearing body armor. His suit jacket is bulletproof. Anything but like super high caliber rounds are just gonna like stop. He always has a blade on him. He's skilled in multiple forms of armed and unarmed combat. He's willing to fight dirty. But then again, so is Robert. Robert, on the other hand, though, is clearly a bit more strategic than John is. When I say that, I don't mean like he's planning everything out from the get, but he's clearly capable of planning things out much faster than John is. He knows how to strategize, knows how to improvise on the fly, I think a little bit better than John does, provided that provided the situation is in his favor. There's also the point we see in the movie that Robert, I keep saying Robert. I hope I keep saying Robert. For some reason, saying Robert and John is going back and forth between that is a little difficult. But if I'm coughing, it's because I'm getting over a cold. So Robert, it's very much implied that Robert has some sort of level of OCD. He has his habits. He likes to keep things neat. He likes to keep things in a certain arranged in a certain way. And this, I think, lends itself to his ability to kind of see ahead, to gauge situation almost Sherlock Holmes style and react accordingly. The problem we get from Maccall in all three movies is that with very little exception, we don't get him going up against people his equivalent, his equal. We had Pedro Pascal, which they were fighting on par for a while, but ultimately he bested Pedro Pascal very quickly. And there was one of the big henchmen he was fighting in the first movie as well. Other than that, though, with both those individuals, he did struggle. And while both those guys are good at their craft, one is just a hired gun, the other is a guy he literally trained. John, on the other hand, has to constantly go up against individuals who are not just master assassins, are masters in hand-to-hand combat. Um, not including the guy, the Russian mafia guy he used to work with or go up against in the first movie. he still had to go up against Common. He had to go up against, thinking real quick here, he had to go up against Ruby Rose's character wasn't really all that impressive compared to John, but she was impressive enough to push him. He had to go up against the Iron Chef guy plus his students. He had to go up and he fought the giant. I can't remember. I'm calling him the giant. The giant in the library in the third movie as well. Plus the guys he fought in that knife display place. Don't know what that was. It wasn't a museum. It was just blades on display. Then if you go all the way into the fourth movie, you have Kane, obviously. Plus, John is constantly going up against and taking shots from a lot more physically imposing individuals and physically skilled individuals than Robert Maccall is, and arguably than Robert Maccall. Robert Maccall is a trained government operative. He's capable. He's trained in being able to. Usually, it's like Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu, all that kind of stuff. And I'm guessing that's kind of what Robert's implying. Not implying. Implementing when we see him fight. He's using a lot of blocks. He's using a lot of guards and a lot of twists. Basically, trying to limit the opponent's movement as much as possible. Counter strikes, counter blows, breaking joints, whatever it needs to be. But John seems to be trained in not just that, because we know John is trained in that to a certain degree, but he's also trained in just straight out hand-to-hand fighting as well. And between the two of them, John is, I think, the quicker on the draw. I think he's just the better marksman, because that's his bread and butter, whereas Robert is a bit more tactical isn't the right word. He's a bit more cerebral in how he kills someone. So these two met in a combat. I always did like the idea, though, that someone would say that, well, what if these guys actually exist in the same universe, and then one of their movies either has a moment where they're sitting down and they both sit down next to each other, like on a bench, and he says, and like Robert Maccall or John, basically just John, Mr. Maccall. Like, that would actually be really, really cool. Or I heard someone say that'd be a cool idea for nobody too, and it would be a cool idea for nobody. So, hypothetically, there's nothing to say these guys can't be in the same world. Granted, they do play it up like that John Wick is a hyper-realized world, whereas the Equalizer world is a lot more of a realistic world. So, I don't know. But who would win in the fight? These two, if they met in a fight, came to blows. Robert's already at a disadvantage, because even if he gets a hold of the gun, if he's not getting a headshot on John's suit can take the hits, and John's even been shot through the gut and just kept going for a while. John is a beast when it comes to tanking hits, pain, all that. Whereas John can easily get a shot on Maccall, and Maccall's going to be in trouble immediately. So, at a range fight, John's going to have the edge. In a physical confrontation, John also has the edge. He's younger by at least a decade. If I'm going by just canonically, or in the real world, how old Denzel is versus Keanu Reeves. Keanu's a full decade younger. So I assume that would be portrayed in their film characters as well. John is also a bit more vicious, in the sense of he's fighting. John is fighting to survive. That usually makes someone a lot more dangerous than someone who's fighting for revenge or vengeance or whatever, which is what Robert's doing usually. He's not usually fighting to survive. He's fighting to get some sort of justice. And I think that puts John as a bit more of a dangerous individual. Add on to the fact that Robert's skilled, sure, but Robert's kind of a, what's the best way to do it? The least amount I have to do to kill, the better kind of guy. Whereas John is, I will do whatever it takes to kill you and live. And on the endurance side, John's clearly got the endurance as well. John can take a lot of hits, keep going without any difficulty. If you've seen the amount of shit he takes in the movies, the man will just can take just about everything. And yes, spoilers. Hopefully, no one's hearing me upstairs. In John Wick Chapter 4, he even survived everything he went through there. The director even said the implication is no, John is still alive. So he survived everything he went through in that movie as well. Come to think of it, trying to think, which movie did John take the most beatings in? Ooh, that's a good question. He's shot in literally every one of them, save the third one where he gets stabbed instead. Uh, in terms of beatings, as well as damage, like physical damage, he's shot technically in all of them. Although, oh no, he's not technically shot in the first movie. He's just stabbed. Lots of gut checks, lots of beatings. Although he does fall off the Continental in the third movie, and that's a big beat. I would say the movie he took the most beatings in was actually probably the fourth one, because there's the stim scene. Not to mention he gets shot twice. So I don't know. Which one do you think he takes the most beating in? But regardless, I think John would take this fight. I think Maccall would be a problem, opponent for him though, because of how calculating and strategic he is. Not to mention that, similar to John, he does have a fighting style designed to counter and then counter the strike and then counter strike, if it will, block the strike and then counter. But I think John is just the more physically capable, just a more physical beast between the two of them. Is comparable in hand-to-hand combat, is the better marksman, and has just got a stronger will to live than Robert. Robert honestly, especially when you get to the third one, talks about, in a little bit in the second one too, when he's asked, like, do you think you deserve to burn in hell for what you did? Absolutely, and 10 times over. Like, Robert fully acknowledges he's done terrible, terrible things. John does this too. And John even says he fears damnation. But John wants to keep living, whereas Robert occasionally doesn't seem to know what to do with his life. He seems lost at points, whereas John knows who he is, but John just wants to stay alive and just remember his wife. He knows what he wants. Robert, up until the third movie, at least midway through, doesn't seem to always know what he wants. So his will to live is a little not debatable. It's just not as strong, I think, as John's. And I think that's the X factor for this fight, is the will to live. So I'm going John Wick in this fight. That would be my personal choice. But who do you got? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.